and welcome back to my channel. My name's Barbie Markey. If you're new here, thank you so much for watching. So today we're going to talk about how to juice using a standard kitchen blender. So the blender that I have is right behind me, this bad boy here. This is the Vitamix. I believe it's the 5500 model. My husband got it for me for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I've really been getting our money's worth out of it. I use it every day, probably a couple times a day on average. I love it. So if you have a high-powered blender like this, you can also juice. There wasn't too much out. I searched for my own research. I did a juice fast. I'm currently on day 3. And there's not too much out instructing how to do a juice fast if you don't have a juicer. And I know that sounds silly, but I don't have a big house, I don't have a big kitchen, and I don't want to buy another big bulky appliance to sit out on my countertop. So I'm doing my juice fast using my blender. And I'm going to show you today just how we do that. Also, the other thing that I saw online that I could find regarding juice fasting or juicing in a blender, you used a messy nut milk bag or a cheesecloth, and I've done that before. It's extremely messy. I don't like it. It takes a lot of time. I find this to be a little bit faster and a little bit cleaner. So this method does not use a messy cheesecloth or a nut milk bag. This is a little bit different. So let me show you what you're gonna need. Obviously you're gonna need your blender. So a big high-speed blender, just like the Vitamix that I have here. Secondly, you're going to need a big bowl and then a mesh strainer. So I just got one at my local grocery store, and this is how we're gonna strain the fiber from the juice. Another thing that you're going to need, another tool that has been very helpful, is a big old ladle. So just a classic ladle that we're going to help push the fiber from the juice, and then the juice ends up in the bowl. And we do have to kind of empty out that bowl and pour it into a big jar as we go through the process. So this is my big old mason jar here. 8 pints. 8 pints this carries, so this is a really big one. It's as big as my head. But this is what I drink my juice out of once the final product is done. Here we go. First we're going to add, we've got celery, a bunch of celery. I just chopped those up into a little bit smaller pieces so it fits in the blender a little bit better. And then I've got half of a grapefruit here and 2 mandarin oranges, and it's going to be a nice citrusy green juice. And then the final product is going to be lots of healthy spinach there. So first I would put in my celery. So let's gather up all the celery, plop it in there. Then we're gonna throw, we can just throw those in whole. And I peeled them, but I know a lot of people keep the rind on, and it's perfectly healthy and fine to keep the rind on. I just peeled them and then thought later, oh, I could have kept the rind on. And then our half of a grapefruit, which I also peeled, throw that in there. And then we're gonna add as much spinach as I possibly can. So it's already about 90% full with that the bulky fruit and celery. We're just gonna shove a lot of good greens in there. All right, that's good. And then the final ingredient for a blender juice is you're gonna need to add a little bit of water. So we're just gonna add about 1/4 of the way up with water. As you can see on the side there. That's about 1/3 of the way up, but that's okay. Everything emulsifies when it gets blended together. So if you have a juicer, it's a little more concentrated, all the juice that you're gonna get out of it. If you have, if you're doing it this way with a blender, you are gonna need to add some water so it emulsifies and gets all the nutrients blended up into that beautiful juice, and then you get the juice out of it. It's really hard to strain just the fiber, and it's hard on the blender too, so make sure you add the water. Okay. Then we're gonna push that spinach down, and we're gonna add our top. And then we go ahead and push go. midway and check it, because a lot of times when you put the spinach on top, and there are a couple pieces, I don't think you can see, there you go, a couple full pieces of spinach, so just make sure those are cleared from the edges. And then give it another 10 seconds. And especially with the high-speed blender, I've done trial and error with this method. You don't want to blend it very long, and I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but you only want to blend it probably total less than 30 seconds, because you don't want it to be so fine that it's going through the mesh strainer, and that's when you're in trouble, and that's when you have to recruit a cheesecloth or a nut milk bag and get your hands all messy. So I found that 10 to 15 seconds on the front end, lift the top, check it, make sure there's no big chunks left, and then maybe 10 more seconds, and then it should be a pretty perfect texture to be able to strain through that mesh strainer. All right, let's give it a try. Have your fibrous green juice there, and as you can see, I've got my bowl and my strainer in my sink, and then you just pour it through. Ooh, this is perfect texture. Good job, Barb. And then you're gonna lift up, raise it up just a little bit so you can create some space between the bowl and the strainer, and then you're just gonna push down through the ladle. Awesome, you can hear it straining through to the bowl. Beautiful. So all in all, this method takes about, I'd say 15 minutes max. Takes a lot longer with the cheesecloth and a nut milk bag. Even a juicer, I think, takes about 15 minutes. I've used my brother-in-law's juicer. It's very nice and easy, but it does take a while to clean because there's so many parts to it. So I think this is just as good of a method. I haven't convinced myself to buy a juicer just yet. This is working totally fine. So once you have all the water, or the juice rather, out, you can see it leaves you just that beautiful chunky pulp. And then what I do is go over to the trash can and we empty it all out. Sometimes it sticks to the ladle. So I just emptied the pulp out of the strainer and the ladle, and now I'm going to grab my big old mason jar here, place that in the sink, and then we're gonna very carefully pour it. A funnel would work well with that. But now we've got some juice. We're in the business. So I set that aside and we repeat. This usually takes about three and a half times, I would say, through the strainer process. And then you've got your full jar of juice. This will be almost full. I'd say it probably, usually a full Vitamix of vegetables and fruit makes about 6 cups. Yeah, 3 pints. And it's usually above there, sometimes more. It just depends on how watery the vegetables are, or the fruit is. And that's it, voila. We've got our big old 6 cups of beautiful green juice. Remember, this was celery, spinach, grapefruit, and orange, so it's gonna taste really good. I haven't given it a try yet. Let me give it a try. You can really taste the grapefruit. That's the dominant note in this one, but that is a good recipe. Nice and light, lots of greens, lots of nutrients. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope if you give it a try, this works for you. A little bit easier than a nut milk bag or a cheesecloth. if you don't have a juicer. So leave a comment below if you give it a try. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.